Welcome back to another episode of Zarpado, a passion podcast.
Coming to you live via Zoom chat from Santiago de Chile is where I'm recording from, and I have the absolute honor today to be, first of all, got the honor to catch up for about a half an hour with my brother George. George, say hey.
Hey guys, how's it going? What's up, Hagen?
George, thank you so much, man. George has been a longtime friend from California. We went to college together, Cal State San Marcos. So I'm actually gonna let him introduce himself, George. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing, your name, where you're from, where you're living, what you do, and how we know each other, and then we'll just go from there.
Right. So my name's George Terris, and I am a local and born and raised in San Diego, California. And currently, I am a physical therapy student, finishing my doctorate degree in physical therapy. Currently on my clinicals right now, so I'm enjoying that. And Hagen and we met at Cal State San Marcos. So he came down from Sacramento down to a city called San Marcos down in San Diego, and I met him on campus, just kind of through classes and just being on campus at the gym and everything. And eventually we got to talking, communicating, and he joined club baseball, the club baseball team over there. And from there, we've hit it off, and Hagen's been one of the coolest people I've met in my not just on campus, but in my whole life. So
Yeah. George, part of the reason, man, that I wanted, besides like the amazing person you are for sharing you with the world on my podcast, we've just always, since we became buddies throughout the baseball club, which was such a great experience. Which, if I'm not mistaken, you were the president of, right?
I was for 4 years over there.
Yeah, and I remember a conversation we had at the gym on campus, and you're like, dude, you should come out to the thing, and me and Truman did, and that was literally the most fun thing, the most purely just love of the game baseball.
Oh yeah,
and that's the way to play the game,
for sure. And that was a fun year right there when you and Truman were on the team.
Oh.
Man, solid years overall, but I loved when you guys joined.
Yeah, because it was a good group of guys. It wasn't serious, but it would get serious, like, to where, okay, I want to do good, I want to win. But if we didn't, it's not like, okay, cool, we have 100, we got to run polls next practice. It's like, no,
right,
not like that whatsoever.
We made it competitive ourselves. We
absolutely
took our passion, right, and we drove it just for the fun of the game, for the pure enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
Which is why in club baseball, you wouldn't join it if you're just there to, like you said, go through the motions, run laps. We're not there for that. We're there for our discipline, becoming these players that took time aside from school, right, to take a break from academics.
Absolutely.
And be with our team, right, which I believe became my fraternity. I didn't join a fraternity on campus, but that baseball team was my fraternity.
Absolutely. And basically what it came down to, with things like that, it's a social opportunity to be able to meet good people, like-minded people, know, and that's exactly what it was. And play some freaking ball, man. And that's what we did. I'll still remember hitting that home run.
Oh man, I'll never get that into left field, man.
Left field, man.
Cruised it over. I think that ball was at least 395.
You hit it. That was solid. That was so awesome. But yeah. Well, George, part of and I briefly went into this, but I guess I got distracted by our good times with baseball club. But I wanted to have George on here because not only is he a good friend, you're looking at him and you're seeing all these in the back of his picture there. He's got a lot of things that look like, okay, he could talk about him. And besides that, I mean, there's a period in my life, as everyone knows, where I lost my father to cancer. And of my friends and people I knew, the only person that really understood me and what I was going through was George right here, because he is a sarcoma survivor, and and what are we, 8 years now? Eight,
We're actually 11.
11 years now,
Yeah.
and for you to go through that at the age you did, and to be doing the things you're doing, man, is nothing short of Zarpado, inspirational. So, before we get to challenges, or I mean, sorry, passions,
Mhm.
share a little bit about what I talked about right there, your journey with cancer and how you used that to kind of make a light within the community. Because
Right.
you have,
So I appreciate it, man. And I'm it's one of those things that in the moment, you're going through hell. It's a traumatic scenario, but in retrospect, like you just said, make a light of it, right?
hmm,
No matter how severe it is. But to kind of explain my story, I am going on 11 years being cancer free. I was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma bone cancer. So it's a form of bone cancer, uh, diagnosed in January of 2012. And I was 13 at the time. Right before my 14th birthday is when I was diagnosed. And I spent a whole year at Rady Children's Hospital in San Diego, um, doing chemotherapy, uh, surgery, and what they called a stem cell transplant at the end of my treatment. Um, and through that, it was a lot of ups and downs, right? It's not a easy street when you go down the cancer route.
yeah,
I was diagnosed with a bone tumor that was at the head of my fibula, which is a bone in our lower leg. And that had spread to my lungs. So it metastasized, as
yeah,
they call it. And through that, it just showed that it was spreading, right? There's something that was much more than just a smaller tumor there.
yeah,
Um, and with that tumor, I lost my ability to lift up my ankle because it was wrapped around a nerve.
mm,
Um, so there's little like secondary complications that occurred with it. But the main focus of that all, with the secondary complications, there's all that, right? But the main focus was to save my life. And that's what they did over at Rady's, and I'm thankful. And the silver lining that I found of it is I survived to help others go through similar tough times, right? It doesn't have to be cancer, it could be any type of difficulty in their life, right? Where they are struck down, but they need to get back up, right? So that's what I experienced in my life.
yeah,
And the interesting thing about cancer is it's really a coin flip. And I don't mean to get down to a very sensitive topic, but I think
yeah,
Hagen, you know more than anyone about this, right?
yeah,
Where it's not about how much you fight, even though that's a huge part of it. It really, your dad, Nick Javier, he's a fighter, right? I met him and I just knew right away his presence, right? But it's the unknown reasoning behind why this disease does what it does that
yeah.
is so traumatic and trips me out. But
It's yeah.
yeah,
George, I love so much what you've done with your life since. And if people, the funny thing about you, man, is people meet you and they're like, okay, here's this uh guy who loves to claim his Greek heritage and listen to reggae music and is one of the most active guys on the planet. And you see him, you're like, that's an odd dude. But then you hear your story, man, and then you know that the reason that you are just one of the most friendliest, happiest, ready for life people is because you were so close to having that taken away. And I remember, I'll never forget our conversation about why it is that you listen to reggae music, and you're like, it just is so happy. And
yeah,
it's, and I could see, a younger you once being finished with that, having that outlook of, man, I just want to listen to reggae music, you
Yep.
know, and I understand that. So back to what we were kind of talking about, to just touch a little bit more, which I'm sure so many people are probably going to wonder, what, first of all, what went through your head when you found out that, oh shit, I'm battling cancer?
Right.
And second of all, what does it feel like to have cancer?
Yeah. So when I was diagnosed, like I said, I was 13, 14. Um, at that age, you hear about cancer, you hear it around the community, maybe unfortunately if it's in your family at a young age, you hear about it that way, but you truly don't know what it is until you're kind of immersed in that environment. Um, and I was struck earlier on with it, and it kind of woke me up a little bit. It like life isn't just, you know, there's a dark side to life in terms of, hey, not everybody has it,
Yeah,
right? And what I mean by that is there's people out there that are struck with diseases from the age of 1, 2, even at birth, right? And then even in older stages of life. But to direct the answer more, I really didn't know what it was. So when my family started telling me about it, doctors started saying these words that were foreign to me. Um, I was just like, I just want to go back to my normal life. What's going on?
yeah,
And then when I saw the emotions come out of my mom and my family, and I knew something was wrong. It was more of a
yeah,
feeling than knowing a direct answer to what it was. It was like, okay, something's off here, and that's what made it scary at first. But also there's also a good thing about not exactly knowing what it was too, because you're going to go through these things without having that fear
yeah,
intimidating you. It's kind of weird. When I was going through treatment, it sucked. It makes you feel like you're at 100% on your phone battery down to like 10%,
yeah,
and it takes it all out of you when you're just walking to the bathroom,
yeah,
and it shows like, wow, you had all this energy, um, and then you become drained and frail and weak, and that's not just for like a weekend of being sick. It lasted a duration of a year.
yeah.
So
Holy shit,
what
man.
you have to do is, cope with it, and you have to be able to adapt to what's going on, and that's where the mental game comes in,
Yeah,
because you already know physically things are going to start draining you. But if you can mentally overcome these things, tell yourself that it's not something to um, be depressed or down on yourself for. It's something that you have to just push through, right? It's just another adversity, another roadblock that you just have to push through. That's the thing that I learned from a young age, and I continue to use in my life right now, because roadblocks are going to come at you left and right. It's just how you react to them, how you approach them too. Don't back away, kind of face them head on.
yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely, man. And I'll never forget. So to give everybody a little more context about George and my relationship during my dad's cancer, because sarcoma is an extremely rare form of cancer. And I mean, first of all, we shared that in common right there. My dad, George, and then brought together my baseball, which was just a kind of cherry on top that brought our friendship closer, was just the baseball side of it, being able to
yeah,
talk Padres, Giants, players right now. Um, always go out and have a catch. That was always something we would do. But my brother and I organized the DJ Silver Life Run, and of every single one of my friends and family, the most influential was this guy right here. In From posting to Instagram, from posting it out there, from collecting money, raising money, to actually training and running with me. And this guy too. One thing I love you for, but hate you for, was every time I would stop to walk when we were running, you would pause the distance. And I'm like, motherfucker, we're still going the distance. Stop pausing. You held me to those 10 miles, man. You held me
Right.
to and so that was just such that was a moment for me, George, that was really like, I mean, if nothing else, from this whole crazy situation, like I have somebody in my life that cares for me this much and for my family, and that was you. And so I appreciate that, man.
Of course, man, and I'll never forget that run. That was a amazing day. It was one of those things that, look, I know you're not a long distance runner, but you push through adversity and you push through, right? And with you holding that event, let alone how you pursued it, you made it where, I don't know, the goal was to think about your dad on that day, and it truly did come out that way.
Yeah.
DJ Silver Life Run, I'll never forget it. It
DJ
was,
Silver, what a name. DJ Silver
yeah,
Life Run.
I love it, and I still have pictures of that day. And do you remember what you were listening to on that run?
You know, I wish I did music wise, but it was like I mean, we're out there for hours.
Right here. When we
Bob
were
Marley.
listening to the end of the run, you were listening to some Bob Marley at the end of it. I said,
Really?
yep. I'll never forget that. You took off your headphones and you're like, I need to kind of focus on like the road, and you took off your headphones for whatever reason. And
Yeah.
then you started playing Bob Marley. I was like, I like it. Keep it up.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Reggae, my reggae brother George.
That's it.
From the islands of Greece, but loving
That's
the
it.
reggae. Love it,
Exactly.
man. So, I mean, George, people are already who've heard up to now are already going to be incredibly impressed with, your resilience and your story, but we haven't even scratched the surface of who you are. So let's switch over to what you're passionate about, and kind of the things that you've used those passions to pursue in your life up to right now.
Right. I'm a firm believer of how our experiences drive our passions, right? And for me, it ended up being my illness and the repercussions of that illness, which is what we call foot drop. As I was explaining earlier, when we're not able to lift up our ankle due to nerve or muscle injury, for me, it was a nerve injury, you lose um, capabilities right outside of just the cancer itself. So for me, it was um, losing the ability to lift my ankle, and then also removing some of my fibula bone, right? So that story led me to physical therapy, right? So I was in physical therapy at a young age and working on strengthening myself so I can return back to the things I love to do. Through that experience, I turned that into it's forming into my career, which is my passion. So you put your career and your passion together,
Yeah.
and that's when you've kind of found something that it's not going to be taken away from you. It's not. You don't have to think about it when you're going to work. You're not dreading it, right? You're loving it, and you're passionate about it, and you want to be there. And if we're going to be doing this career for 40 to 60% of our life,
Yeah.
even more, we want to be doing something we love. So that's how I found my passion. That's the silver lining of AJ Silver Run, right? I love the name there too.
Silver.
But the silver lining to that, right, is finding how I can help others with the experience that I went through.
Yeah.
And it came, I don't want to say easy to me, but it kind of fell into my life. I didn't search for it. It just came to me.
Yeah.
And that's how I think passions are brought up, right? So if something comes to you and you love it, opposed to searching, and yes, you need to explore out there to find that passion, but the passion will meet you halfway.
Yeah.
And that's what happened in my life, and that's why I'm doing physical therapy. So I'm going to become a physical therapist next year. Currently
Yes,
just
sir.
my academics right now, and I'm loving every part of the way. Love the journey, right? You don't have to
Oh my gosh,
just
man.
look for the destination. Love
Your
the journey.
journey, your
Yeah.
journey with this studying and the school, man, has been nothing short of inspirational for two ways because I look at that and I'm like, oh man, I love I'd love to find something someday that I care enough that much to work about. And also know I ain't cut out to be a doctor because I don't want to put in that much time for those things.
Right,
You
but
know?
man, your time is going to go to something you love, right? It doesn't
Absolutely.
matter. Like, yeah, school is structured for me
Yeah.
into 4 years of undergrad and 3 years of graduate school. So, yeah, it's structured that way. But the time you're putting in, the things that you're doing
Yeah.
right now, traveling the world, that's all molding to become part of something greater.
Yeah. Oh,
Zarpado.
yeah.
Zarpado, right?
Zarpado, Zarpado.
That's it. So you are doing your thing. So
Yeah,
keep it up. This
absolutely.
podcast right here is one component of your big mission.
Yeah, it is 100%. That's exactly right. So we talked about your passion for physical therapy and how that's kind of molded into that. What else? What other things are you passionate about? I know you're a very passionate guy, so let's hear him.
Oh yeah, man. So I I mean Hagen knows this for sure. We've talked about it. We already touched the surface on it. I'm a huge baseball fan, right? I know he's a Giants fan,
Yes, sir.
Padres fan, but we respect each other's teams.
Yes, we do.
So,
Let's hate the
but
Dodgers.
hate the Dodgers collectively
We
together.
hate them. We hate them together.
Oh, we hit them together. um, but it's much more than that. Like I love the camaraderie and the thought of sports, right? So if you look at sports in general, it teaches you things. It's more than just a game. It's discipline that you get from it. It's the patience you get from it too. Um, Many sports are about the patient in the long run, right? So you have to train for these sports, and you admire these athletes for training the way that they do, being on the big stage.
Yeah,
If you connect the sports passion that I have with the physical therapy passion that I have from previous injuries and just the art of physical therapy, put those together, it just adds another layer to why I love physical rehabilitation in that field.
yeah,
And yeah, so that's another one of my passions that kind of integrates itself with physical therapy. But then going aside from that, Hagen already mentioned I'm Greek, so I'm very passionate about my Greek culture
sir.
and and who I am. And behind those shirts over there, I have
Yep.
shirts related to sarcoma, cancer related, um, fundraisers and shirts there.
The medals. This guy's an incredible
Medals.
with
I
the
did a
foot
half
drop,
marathon
man.
last year.
Yeah,
Say
I
again?
saw it. I said with the foot drop, you're still
Yeah.
a beast, man.
Man, you got to adapt to what the situation you got,
Hell
right?
yeah.
You
Adapt
gotta
and
figure it out.
thrive. I remember you these posts you'd post on Instagram just like, oh yeah, didn't know I'd run 13 miles today, but I did. And it was like, the hell, George? Nobody does
Yeah.
that.
It's just it's a feeling you get at that
Yeah,
point. If you feel like you can keep on going, I run kind of going on a segue now. I don't just run just to get mileage in.
yeah,
I run because it is much more than the physical aspect. It's a mental healer. I'm able to clear my mind. I'm able to, I mean, plan things, right? It kind of opens up your mind to return back to the things you want to do, your goals. It kind of calms your mind down from any chaos that you're experiencing. So
why
there's
is
much
that?
more to running. Why it's
Why is that?
I mean, there's a physiological answer I can give you, but for me personally, why I feel that way is because I feel free. I feel like I'm able to let emotions out. I'm able to let physical whatever's stuck inside. I'm
Yeah,
able to kind of expel that
yeah,
from my body, and my mind is able to be clear again. If I'm having a shitty or rough day, which I know it happens, we're human, regardless of what experience I went through with cancer, right? We're all going to have those days that are kind of up and down. But
absolutely.
it kind of dials me down and tells me when I can clear my head, I can think of the most important things in my life, right?
Yeah,
Those little things that are bothering me that day don't matter, right? You have to look at it in a way that it's like I'm living, I'm breathing, when you're running and you're running to that 80% max effort or whatever it may be, you feel a pulse, right? You're living, you're breathing.
You feel, yeah, it reminds you you're alive.
Yeah, you feel this zen, right, within you. And the reason I use that word is because you really do focus on yourself and what you're doing. You hear your breathing, you hear your heartbeat, and you're it even adds another layer to it if you have a beautiful scenery around you. I love to kind of extend it out to the beach. I'll do coastal runs on the beach, and you kind of just admire the place that you live in. And that could be for anything. It doesn't have to be a beach, but you just admire what you're around.
Absolutely.
Well, runner's high. It just makes you feel good and
yeah.
And
And so from a physiological side, what would you say a runner's high is?
So there's this chemical reaction that happens, right? Endorphins are released from our brain, and it's almost like dopamine. It makes us feel good, right? So that's what happens when you're running, right? It allows this expression of feel good, and like it's there's a lot more science to it. The blood's moving, oxygen's flowing throughout the body, and but mainly it's that brain feeling that dopamine and endorphins being released to make you feel good.
Because it's real, man. It is real. The way you feel after running, an extended period of time, you feel good. And even if you felt bad before, for some reason, you'll feel like, wow, I feel really good. Even if you hate running, and I've always hated running, but I'll always remember that period of training for the life run. I'll remember that in as some of the best days of honestly of my life because I was so clear, my lungs were so strong. I was, it was really that was a benefit from it. So that was for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a big reason why I run, and just exercise in general, right? When you want to dial it down, it doesn't have to be long distance running, but you take it in a general sense and you say, okay, if I'm moving my body, you're not just taking care of your physical self, it's your mental self, right? So I find it very important for myself to, regardless of what time of the day it is, get some type of workout, whether it's 30 minutes, whether it's an hour and a half, whatever it may be, no matter how busy the day is, I try and implement a workout in so I can just have time for myself.
What'd you get to today?
So I haven't gotten into it today, but I might do a little something after.
Still early where you're at in California.
Say again?
I said it's still early in California, so that's good.
Yeah. It's what time?
What, 7:45?
7:59. Yeah.
7:59.
So it'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, and I know that you find it very important to find that place to venture out, right? Whether it's rock climbing.
Yeah.
Or for hikes. I know that the place you're in is the perfect place to do that kind of stuff over there too, right? So you're loving it out there, huh?
Oh, dude, I couldn't be more grateful for the life that I'm living right now, and it's for the same reasons, like you said earlier, you're gonna have those ups and downs. And as I've been out here in South America, the downs have been the things that I remember and appreciate the most. Because when you climb out of those, literally and metaphorically, it's you just feel this kind of confidence, that you don't feel when you're in a comfortable place.
Right.
It's one thing to be like, you're having down days, you have successes, and you're living where you're from, but it's one thing to have those same feelings, even sometimes a lot more minor, but
Right.
in a really unfamiliar scenario because the thing you feel is just this amazing amount of confidence, self-confidence. So it's been amazing, man. It's been absolutely wonderful.
Definitely. And I like what you said there. You have to kind of dance in the rain, You have to learn how to dance in the rain instead of dwell on the
Yeah.
dancing rains on you, right?
Yeah.
And it's not easy to, right? Because when you're having an off day, you may get down on yourself or whatever, but you have to kind of get back up, and you have to know that those down days aren't permanent; they're temporary.
Absolutely. You got to listen to the reggae in the hip hop world.
That's it, man. That's it, dude. So
Listen to
just
the
carry
reggae in the hip hop world.
for sure. So no,
Like George. Yeah, man. So I already briefly gave you a idea of some of the things I like to do on the show. So I want to kind of use after you explaining, who you are, allowing people to kind of see more about you.
Mhm.
Let's share about some of these Zarpado momentos, okay? Uh,
Right.
and if you could tell us a couple of stories of things that have happened, um, either whether it was good, bad, but things that kind of moved you or made you remember them and why in your life. Moments, Zarpado momentos.
So I definitely remember. I briefly, well, I did bring it up. My diagnosis with cancer, right?
Yeah,
It wasn't just me being affected with it, and I realized that from my viewpoint, right?
uh,
You see that family becomes distressed, and friends become distressed, and why I'm bringing this up is because I saw them, and it just shows how much people care for you, right?
yeah,
Um, when things are going great and there's no problems at all, people live their life, right? It's day in, day out. You interact with people, friendships are made, all that.
yeah,
But then it really all comes down to who's going to be there for you when times are rough.
yeah,
And I remember when I was diagnosed, it was the community came together like I, I can't explain it. I was going through one of the hardest times, but also made me so happy with how the community came together for me.
yeah,
Um, just shows how when friends are down, when families are down, when they're having a tough situation, you be there for them, right? And show your appreciation of them and show them that you're there for them, whether it's doing something small as bringing dinner to the family because maybe the family's stressed that they have to take their son, who is me, right, to chemotherapy, and they don't have time to cook for the rest of the kids at home. Things like that made a huge difference to me and my family when I was going through treatment. Um, I want to pay it back forward that way too,
yeah,
where if somebody is in need, or not just in need, I want to be there without asking. Like if I don't need them to ask me for help, I want to be there and I want to provide without being asked to. And it goes a long way when you do something for someone without asking for something in return, right?
yeah,
And that's how chain reactions happen of good tokens, good people, right? So if I do something good for Hagen is gonna do something good for somebody else. I don't need something from him. I'm not asking for it, but he does it. He does it, right? Hagen will respond and be a great friend towards me back again. So that was one of the defining moments in my life, right? Being 14, now I'm 25, and I look at it like, hey, you don't need to do things just to have something in return.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so that was a
Such
huge
a
defining.
such an amazing thing to learn at such a young age, in the midst of something so traumatic and difficult. That was
Right.
one thing, and I'll say it till the day that I die. People ask me like, "Oh man, you lost your dad to cancer. Like that must have been awful." And hell yeah, man, that was terrible. Like it was horrible. But when I look at, sure, losing your life, that's a pretty big thing. But when you look at the time that we got to spend and the things that we got to do in those 2 years from his diagnosis to when he passed away, like I like words can't even describe how grateful I am that that situation happened so
Mhm.
that we could do what we did, you
Right.
know? I mean, I was just telling a story last night to my girlfriend about how, she was asking us what I did for Christmas last year, and that was the first Christmas without dad. And the year before, we were in Arizona, and then I thought back to that. I was like, that was the last time I actually got to give him a hug. And something so simple as that, but remembering that hug, that I got to give him, about a month and a half before he died was like,
Right.
that's a Zarpado memento, and being able to think of something like that to describe a whole scenario is really a great way to live, man. A great way to view things.
No, definitely. And you know what's really unique of somebody your age, right? Look, you're you're relatively young in your life, right? Your long life, and what you did with your dad during those last few years, you didn't wait for time to go by. You made the time happen. You
Hell
created times, right?
yeah.
And that's how we gotta live life. We can't wait for time to pass and pass and pass. There's kind of like a timeline that you had, sadly enough, right, with your father, your
Yeah.
dad. And instead of waiting for the seconds to tick, you made quality time with your dad. I'll never forget the timeline that felt like years on years
Yeah.
within those 2 years that you made with your dad.
Yeah, man.
You made every moment count, which is what I'm trying to say here. And that's what we got to do with our life, right?
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
So, Sacramento River Cats, remember going
Hell
out there?
yeah, I do, dude. That was the last Father's Day.
Yep.
Being able to play catch on the field. Because the last time my high school, it was funny. My high school, your junior year, or when you're on your junior varsity year, you get to play at the River Cats Stadium
Mhm.
against another school. And so the last time that I set foot on that field, I gave up 7 runs.
Oh,
And it was not a good experience. So it was good the next time to set foot on that field with my dad to play catch and just chuckle about a moment like, oh man, I hit 3 batters in a row and gave up 7 runs. Like it was not my best outing.
yeah. I mean, you were able to make light of that situation too, right?
Yeah,
And in the moment, it stung. I'm pretty sure it stung in the moment
yeah,
when you let up those runs. But you reflect and you look back at small little things like that are so minuscule compared to the big things in life, like spending moments with your dad, right?
absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so that was a great Zarpado memento. So George, I mean that was so powerful right there. What other type of Zarpado mementos have you experienced that you felt kind of made you who you are or brought you to where you're at right now?
Right, right. So after going through treatment, post cancer, residual secondary impairments, right, of having like foot drop, as I said, and everything,
Yeah,
being able to push through those adversities and um, make light of situations is something that I started to do after cancer, right? I describe my life as before cancer and after cancer, as I feel like two different people.
yeah,
Same person inside, of course, but like my perspective and outlook on life became different. Um, but the defining moments were really when I started to believe in myself to do things such as really take that big step without hesitation. When I got into physical therapy school, that was one of the most proud moments for my selfish reasons, myself
of course.
that I had in my life past surviving cancer. And it's one of those things that once I knew I can get into school and I knew there's a lot more work that had to be done, I knew that if I really applied myself and I did it more than just the paycheck or more than just the paycheck,
Yeah,
things were going to be good. And I'm still in that process right now, but I've been happy about every moment leading up to it. Um, so that moment of getting into school, didn't just teach me, okay, now I'm going to go to the career I want to get into. It taught me you can do things if you put time, effort, and the mental willpower into it.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing about anything. If I were to advise anyone on if they want to pick a career or if they want to pick something they're passionate about, you have to put the work in. It's not, yes, I said earlier in this podcast, it will fall into your lap or it will come to you, but you got to meet it halfway. You got to put the time, effort, and willingness. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about finding yourself too.
Yeah.
I was able to find myself through that. Because before I actually say this, I'm not sure why I say this. People, such as family members, have questioned me, saying, "No, you would have found your passion if it wasn't for cancer." But there's something weird internally that I feel that through my cancer experience, I found my passion of physical therapy that I didn't think I maybe would have not found if I didn't go through that. So that's where I'm thankful that I did go through that experience. I'm thankful that I had the experiences that I had at such a young age too.
Yeah.
Because it allowed me to step in the direction I wanted to go into. And I'm thankful for that. And that was a very defining moment in my life, even though I'm just getting started with my career.
Hell yeah, man.
Stepping stone to where I wanted to be and really kind of put a spotlight on where I should focus my attention towards. So I'm very thankful for that in my own selfish, self-righteous reasoning.
Absolutely. So you have every right to be, because not only do you see the power that was brought unto you after that, you go one step further, which is something I admire so much about what you said is, I just want to use my experience to be there for other people who will go through things, and that was one of the things that I said about losing my dad at 21, man, was now when my friends lose their parents, which, that's inevitable, just about when, and you're fortunate if you're able to have your parents alive with you for as long as possible. And if you're not, it's incredibly unfortunate, but that's just the way life goes. And I always said, like, now I get to be here for my friends when they go through that. And that was truly something that I feel partly, I know that's very ingrained in my family to look at things like that. But I'm telling you, man, that was also something that I picked up from you, from knowing you and hearing the way that you talked about what you went through, and just, I'll never forget, almost sometimes on the borderline of like too much, you were just there, and it was like hey, let's go play catch, hey, let's go out to, hey, how's your dad, let's call, like and I was like, I didn't even know you, and I just, but that was so cool. And it was literally, you never asked for anything in return, man. And I think that perspective that you were given, that life gave you, is going to do absolute wonders for your future and for all the people that are blessed to come rehabilitate with you. Like that's going to be amazing, man.
Yeah, no, and it's I think it bounces right back towards you, right? You give off this aura, this personality, and this magnetism to be around you, right? And you're a great person, and that goes a long way, right? When you can create this profile for yourself that just allows, you don't have to put yourself out there, you just do it by being yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There's, I don't mean to kind of bring into rap culture and hip hop, R&B, but there's artists out there that I've listened to interviews on, and J. Cole being one of them, and Kendrick Lamar being another. Those are two artists that didn't really try and put themselves out there. They didn't promote themselves as like, hey, listen to my music. People came to them because of what they put out.
Yeah.
And that's how you come off, right? And that's how people should be, right? People should be just themselves. They don't have to prove anything or show anything. They're just themselves, and people will come in as a community to be around you, right? And that's how friendships are made, and bonds are made.
Yeah.
And
And
I know
most
I took
importantly, the right people.
the right people, exactly,
Yeah.
right? Right people will stick with you, stick by your side. And that's something I appreciate from you and our friendship. And I'm proud of you, man, with everything that you're doing, right? You're doing things that you wanted to do and not putting a limitation on any of it. So
Hell yeah, bro.
inspiring,
Why would
inspiring.
we ever, you know? The only thing that does is get in the way of your own success. And it's like, why not just, that's what my pops taught me. Why not shoot for the stars, you know? Just go for
Yeah,
it.
definitely, man. And see, you can tell that he left a legacy behind too.
Mm.
Your dad. Yeah, and that's the if you're gonna call it silver lining, whatever you may want to call it, but he impacted you and impacted me and so many others, right? And that's how the light will be carried, right? Through the memories, through the person he was. Um, it's yeah, I met him a few times, and I already knew off the bat he's an amazing person. The
Yeah.
way he got out. I have a story about your dad actually, very quick.
Okay.
I'll never forget. Out of practice, your family was visiting. Your
Yeah.
mom, dad, they're in town in San Diego.
Mhm.
They came to one of our practices, and your dad came out. Um, Bilateral amputations, right?
Yep.
Prosthetics on each side, and
No, just one side.
oh, one side. Oh, sorry, my bad.
Just one side.
Sorry. On one side, and he came out to play catch with you because he wanted to play catch with the son, which I think was one of the coolest things. I know he played in Sacramento with the River Cats, but just kind of seeing him get up from his wheelchair and throw, right,
Yeah.
and want to be active, and that's kind of passion you have to have in life too. No matter what limitation, I'm going to put in quotes, limitation you have, you're not going to let it bring you down. Um, on paper, it may look like a limitation,
Mhm.
but if you take your deck of cards and you live to the fullest, then you really don't have any limitations.
Absolutely, man. You know, George, I mean, I've appreciated so much things that we've gone through, and back and forth, you and me could list off a number of Zarpado mementos of things we've experienced together in our separate lives that have made us the men we are today, and that can inspire a lot of people out there, which is why I hold our friendship so dearly, because I know that I can always count on you for that. And part of the reason I wanted to have you on here was to show people like, hey, there's people out here that have this type of life view. We could all benefit from being a little bit like George, you know? Just, I mean, I'll never forget, dude. And this is the last thing I just want to tell about my goofy buddy George, you know, playing the hot corner, third base, and just taking shot after shot off the chest, the face, picking the ball up and making the throw. You know, it was the boy's glove was like a frying pan. It would bounce off, get hotter, and just pop right onto his face, and but he never stopped, man. And that was just the goofiest, best way to just spend time in college, was just playing ball with your buddies and having a blast, man. And that was just such a great time. Well, you know, George, the last thing, you know, we went over some Zarpado mementos, we went over your passions. I feel like people have gotten an opportunity to, as I said, you know, scratch the surface of knowing what an incredible person you are. So I want to ask you one more thing, and what I like to end each episode on is, for everybody who's going out there, and you've already given a lot of advice on ways to live, but what advice can you give to people who are struggling to find that passion, who don't know about themselves, where you talk so highly about, you know, being able to feel comfortable in who you are, and the right people, the right opportunities will come in your life. But what happens when you don't know either of the latter and are wanting things to come in your life? What advice do you have for them for that?
Right. So I would say really try things, right? You don't have to follow through with it if you don't love it.
Yeah.
But the more things you try, the more opportunities you get to love something.
Hmm.
Um, and through that, yes, I was going through physical therapy myself as a patient at 13, 14, 15 years old, right? But there's a patient side of it, and then there's a clinician side of it. By trying out the clinician side of it, by volunteering at hospitals, by volunteering and working at physical therapy clinics,
Yeah.
I was able to find what I loved. And when I volunteered at the hospital, it gave much more than just physical therapy. It gave the nursing perspective, it gave the surgeon's perspective. You're able to volunteer and shadow any medical professional within that hospital.
Mm.
And my love and my passion still drove towards physical therapy. Um, Through that, I was able to filter out what I didn't want to do, what I did want to do, what I do want to do in a career.
Yeah.
And I think the more you get yourself out there, the more you try things, the more you, it's trial and error, right? If you don't love something, put it aside and then find that thing you love, right? Uh, so get out there, be active, be proactive for yourself. Confidence in yourself is great too, because if you're going to commit to something, you're going to commit to it either 100% or you're going to back out because you don't love it. And that's the driving force that you need, right? Being 100% in on something is how you're going to find that passion, opposed to being, I think I'll like it.
Yeah.
No one's going to love somebody that works and says, I think I like it. You want to go 100% in and you want to love what you do, no questions asked. And that makes the process, the journey, a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah.
You don't just go for a destination. You go through the journey and you appreciate every little moment along the way.
Hmm.
That's how passions are found, and the journey's not over, right? It's a continuous process. So
Absolutely.
keep on searching and keep on looking for that passion, and you can have multiple passions. I can love physical therapy, but I also have other enjoyable things in my life, such as baseball, surfing, running,
Yeah.
being active outside of the physical therapy mindset. I love to go to the gym and, like I said, go for my runs, go hang out, play catch, right? As Hagen and I did. So those kind of things make it a lot more enjoyable outside of, you have your social life, you have your work life, you have your social life and family life, right?
Yep.
You kind of put all three of those aside and you find your passions within each. And that's how you go about it, right? You have a long life to live. You got to keep uh, doing something you love.
Yeah. Man, George, that you hit the nail on the head right there, man. Just get out there. Give yourself an opportunity to get to know yourself.
Right.
And you're never gonna get to know yourself if you're doing the same thing that you only kind of enjoy.
Yeah.
So go out there and look for the things that you really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are lucky to have fallen in love with the first thing that they tried. Other
Right.
people need to search, but it's all for who you are and what your interests are, you know? And that's amazing, man. So the last thing I just want to ask, as far as all of this physical therapy, everything goes, you said by next year you'll be a doctor, right? What's the ultimate goal with all of this? What's the dream?
The dream is to be able to work in a setting that I can sustain the rest of my career,
Yeah.
my life, and it's all stepping stones right now. So, like I said, I'm enjoying the journey, the process. Yes, it's important to have a goal in mind, but it's also important to be fluid and adaptable to whatever may come your way. So I'm taking it step by step right now. I do really love the outpatient setting, which is working with patients that are athletes post-op, whatever it may be. Post-op meaning after surgery. But it's really something that I'm going to take step by step and see where time takes me.
Absolutely.
And I know at the end of it, in very general terms, I want to help people somehow. It's not only going to be about how can I navigate through this to make the most money. Yes, that's part of life, right? You want to have a comfortable amount of finances, right, to live your life without stress. But you're not just doing it for the dollar amount. If we did it for the dollar amount, we'd find other ways to do it, right? Physical therapy is my vessel to help others, and I'm passionate about it. I love how I can incorporate my life experiences and not give them a recipe on how to do it, but integrate them in creating a recipe for themselves to rehabilitate, to become successful. I want them to find their way to find their willpower to rehabilitate and get back to what they love to do, right?
Absolutely.
So not everything in life is cookie cutter, right?
Yeah.
We're going to find that people are going to try and follow the book, but we're writing the books that we, our lives are books in the works, right? Yeah. And that's how you got to go about it. You have to allow life to take its course, take advice from everybody, pick and choose if you want to take it, but it's how you live your life your way. Be comfortable with how you go about things. Be confident, and life will find its way to make you enjoy it.
What a way to finish right there, man.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, it's been such an honor to catch up with my brother George and to just share a little life, some Zarpado momentos. As always, if there's anything that anybody wants to know, to ask, feel free to reach out to either me or George. Both of our socials are going to be posted with this. And yeah, George, thank you very much, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Hagen, thank you, and I'm honored to be on your podcast, Zarpado. I love how you birthed that word, and I can't wait to see you when you come back to town.
Absolutely, man. You know it. Every time I pass through San Diego, I got to hit up my favorite physical therapist. Hopefully not always for being injured, but I know I can count on you for that too.
You got it, man. And I can count on you to always be there for me, man. So I appreciate
it. Absolutely, brother. Have a good one, and everybody, go out and live la vida zarpada.
Zarpado, a passion podcast.